Action plans within an organization. Why do we have action plans? Typically, we come up with action plans when we've identified a challenge in an organization. And I typically err on the side of always being optimistic. So we could call those challenges opportunities. And when we start looking at them as opportunities. But when we have action plans, and we can identify the opportunities that are in there, we can actually assign and cultivate action plans that are consistent among each manager. Because very similarly to the concept around structured meetings, right? One manager is talking to their team about this, another manager is talking to their team about that. 3 managers, same role, are hearing 6, 7 different things, right? 6 or 7 different things that's going to create inconsistency in a business. Now, I'm not saying limit creativity. I'm not saying that. I'm saying create a standard of best practice within your organization to cultivate a culture that aligns with your mission statement, right? And it's very similar when we start talking about action plans, right? Let's go back to our super coin, right? That super coin is going to do something pretty differently. And what we also don't know is that some manager, like this guy didn't finish, everyone's operating in isolation, unable to track it, there's absolutely no feedback loop, right? Like if I pulled out a Word document and was like, this is my action plan, and he pulled out a Word document, he was like, this is my action plan. And we could also have 3 of the same things on my action plan and 3 of the same things on his action plan, and we're reinventing the wheel every time we do it, right? So if we can start to create structured action plans, right, then we can start to identify problems in a consistent way. We can formulate plans. We can implement the plans, and then we can learn from it. Right? Let's create a way to identify problems or identify opportunities. We might suspect that in the organization, I'm going to use a real one. I actually built an action plan when I was the first power user of Stemmons with Boxer, and one of my first projects was building action plans for leasing agents. This is a very interesting story. Let's talk about how long I had been in real estate. 6 months. 6 months. I'm 23 years old, and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to come up with action plans how leasing agents can improve their sales. No, very minimal about this, but I learned enough from our best practices to say, okay, I know what it is they need to do. How do I tell if they'll need an action item? How do I identify the fact that I should ask or prompt a leasing agent to carry out the action item? So perhaps an analyst gets a case, and in this scenario, Kasia, my analyst, I worked with for many years, got a case that said, hey, here's your set of instructions. I want you to go look at the variance report. In any property with a variance between budgeted and actual greater than 15%, please assign that leasing agent, you know who the leasing agents are because in departments, a case that says, please do your leasing plan. So the manager gets a thing, and an action item says, time to do your leasing plan. There's instructions on how to do it, right? Okay. I'm going off topic here because I know how to do the plan in my head. So the leasing agent gets a case and says, I want you to do the leasing plan. What the heck is a leasing plan? There's a set of instructions, and then they go to a quest form. And on that quest form, they can pick, there's a drop down that says, add to my playbook, don't add to my playbook, right? And if they add it to their playbook, it'll create a case and assign to them with a set of instructions that they can then carry out and say, this is how I'm going to improve my sales. Now, before they actually do this, before they launch their action plan, they sent a link to that link to the quest form to their supervisor and said, hey, will you approve my action plan? Most of the time, managers are the ones coming to their employees to say, hey, please, I want you to do this, I want you to do this, I want you to do this. And now we switched the gears. The employee saying, manager, I built my action plan in Quest. Will you approve it? Do you think this is a good idea? Am I missing any plays? And by the way, the plays that I choose to not add, I'm writing in notes why I chose not to add that to my playbook. I want you to know I just already did a big marketing blast last week. I I think it would not be fitting to do that now. So again, it's that sense of ownership, and we're putting the onus on the leasing agent to identify what they need to do. So, play is a best practice. It's an approach. And so forth and so forth. Skipping through this a little bit. Great. That's what I was looking for. The learn from it part. So they create the action plan. They're out doing their things. I don't want to just fire and forget. I don't want to say, well, they're doing their action plans. I want to close the feedback loop. What's the result of their action plan? Right? Like, is it working? Do we see a change in the variance? Are sales going up? Right? And we can see that because are there any cases that are open still assigned to that leasing agent that haven't been completed or worked on? It's an opportunity to intervene. Great, they've done all of their cases. Let's have an automated reminder to track the trend of the variance over time for any leasing agent who's done a leasing plan within the last year. Do we see improvement? Do we need to change the approach of this action plan? Is it working or is it not? I'll have you know it's working. 7 years later, the leasing plan and the playbook that I wrote. Remember, 6 months in real estate, I wrote a playbook. And I'm telling you this because we might be working in an industry that we've never been in, right? Or we might be starting a new company that's a new idea. And the question, I call it the small voice that questions yourself, that might say, what do I know about this? I'm just starting this. It's trial and error. Well, the fact of the matter is, you know what you're up to and you know what you're about. Otherwise you wouldn't have started the company in the first place, right? So what's your mission statement? What are your high-level goals? What are your mid-level goals? And then, what are the standards of best practice to you guys? And if we have those standards, we can then extrapolate them into action items. That would be an action plan. Make sense?